Officer, I'm a federal FRA auditor. These are government test units. Verify my credentials.
I don't care what you say you are. Turn around or you're going in cuffs.
Touch me without cause and you're detaining a federal official on duty. This is about to get very expensive.
Officer Kyle Braden had been patrolling the transit district for 5 years when he made the decision that would implode his career, humiliate his department, and cost the taxpayers of Philadelphia $6.5 million. He was 29 years old, possessing the kind of unearned confidence that often masquerades as competence. On a bright Wednesday morning at the historic 30th Street station, he received a dispatch call regarding a larceny in progress on the Amtrak platform. The suspect was described as a male loading expensive luggage onto a train acting suspiciously. The man in question was Marcus Thorne, a senior federal auditor for the Federal Railroad Administration with 25 years of government service. What Braden did next, ignoring protocol, mocking federal credentials, and arresting a high-ranking official in front of a platform full of commuters, would become a definitive case study in how implicit bias overrides logic. Before we unravel this catastrophe, tell us, where are you watching from today? If you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. These are the stories that demand to be told, and your support ensures we can keep holding power accountable. The 30th Street Station is a cathedral of transportation, a massive structure of limestone and granite that hums with the energy of thousands of travelers. It was 10:15 a.m. on a Wednesday in October. Sunlight streamed through the massive concourse windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air. The morning rush had settled into a steady hum of business travelers, tourists, and railway staff. Marcus Thorne stood on Platform 4 near the rear of the Acela Express bound for Washington, D.C. At 56 years old, Thorne was a man who carried himself with the quiet gravity of someone who knows exactly what he is doing. He was dressed in a charcoal bespoke suit, a crisp white shirt, and a silk tie, professional, understated, and immaculate. Thorne was not a passenger today. He was on assignment. As a senior auditor for the Federal Railroad Administration, FRA, his job was to ensure the safety and compliance of the nation's rail infrastructure. He was the man who made sure the tracks didn't buckle, the signals didn't fail, and the federal regulations were followed to the letter. Beside him sat 3 large black Pelican hard cases. They were heavy, reinforced, and locked, containing roughly $150,000 worth of specialized ultrasonic testing equipment and proprietary government hardware. He was waiting for the conductor to open the cargo hold so he could load the sensitive gear for transport to the D.C. headquarters for annual calibration. Thorne checked his watch, a vintage Omega that had been a gift for his 20 years of service. He was 10 minutes early. He pulled a heavy clipboard from his leather satchel and began cross-referencing the serial numbers on the cases with his inventory sheet. He was meticulous. He was precise. He was a man who lived his life by checklists and regulations. To the casual observer, he looked like a high-level executive or an engineer. But to Rick Vance, a private security guard contracted by the station, Marcus Thorne looked like a suspect. Rick Vance was 38 years old and had spent the last decade drifting between security jobs, having failed the police academy entrance exam twice. He was a man who craved authority but possessed none of the discipline required to wield it. From his vantage point on the upper concourse, he looked down at the platform and didn't see a federal auditor doing his job. He saw a black man standing alone with 3 expensive-looking cases that Vance decided didn't belong to him. In Vance's mind, the narrative was already written. The man must have swiped the bags from a luggage cart and was trying to stow them on the train before anyone noticed. Vance watched for 5 minutes, his suspicion hardening into certainty before he grabbed his radio. He didn't approach Thorne to ask a question. He didn't speak to the station master. He called the police. "Dispatch, this is Vance at 31st Street. I've got a suspicious male on Platform 4. He's got 3 large tactical cases, looks like he's trying to loot them or stow them on the northbound Acela. He's looking around nervously, requesting an officer." The dispatcher asked the standard questions. "Is he armed? Is he aggressive?" Vance replied. No, but he's tampering with the cases. He doesn't look like a passenger. He's loitering by the cargo door. The call went out. Officer Kyle Braden was 2 blocks away finishing a coffee. When the call came over his radio, suspicious male possible larceny of luggage, platform 4. Braden's adrenaline spiked. He didn't hear investigate. He heard apprehend. Officer Braden had a reputation within the precinct, though not the one he thought he had. His file contained 8 citizen complaints in 5 years. Most were for discourtesy, 2 were for bias-based policing. He was known for escalating low-level encounters, for talking over people, and for a refusal to admit when he was wrong. His sergeant had warned him just 3 months prior that his customer service needed work. But Braden didn't view the public as customers. He viewed them as potential threats or criminals. He turned his siren on for 2 blocks just to cut through the traffic and pulled up to the station entrance with a screech of tires. He marched through the main hall, hand resting near his holster chest puffed out, ready to be the hero who stopped a major theft. Braden took the stairs down to platform 4, 2 at a time. He burst onto the platform, scanning the area. It was relatively empty at this end of the train. He spotted Thorne immediately. The image matched the description. A black man standing over black tactical cases. In Braden's mind, the expensive suit didn't signal professional. It signaled con man. The calm demeanor didn't signal innocence. It signaled arrogance. Braden walked straight toward Thorne, bypassing the standard approach of observation. He didn't wait for backup. He didn't check in with the conductor who was walking down the platform. He zeroed in on his target. Thorne was marking a checkbox on his inventory list when he sensed the presence behind him. He turned slowly to see a young police officer, face flushed, standing less than 3 feet away. "Step away from the bags," Braden barked, his voice echoing off the concrete walls. Thorne looked at the officer, then down at his cases, then back at the officer. He didn't step back. He didn't raise his hands. He simply adjusted his glasses. "Excuse me, officer," Thorne asked, his voice a deep, resonant baritone that commanded attention in boardrooms and federal hearings alike. "I said step away from the bags. Put your hands where I can see them." Braden repeated his hand, unsnapping the retention strap on his holster. "Officer, I am loading this equipment. I am a federal auditor. Is there a problem?" Thorne spoke clearly, without fear. He had been in high-pressure situations before. He had testified before Congress. A rookie cop with an attitude problem was a nuisance, not a threat, or so he thought. Braden laughed, a short, sharp sound devoid of humor. "Federal auditor, right, and I'm the police commissioner. Step away from the luggage now, or I will make you step away. We have a report of a male stripping luggage on this platform." Thorne's brow furrowed. "Stripping luggage? Young man, these are government property. I am waiting for the conductor to open the hold." "I'm not going to ask you again," Braden said, closing the distance. He was now in Thorne's personal space, trying to use physical intimidation. Thorne sighed, a sound of profound patience wearing thin. "I am going to reach into my jacket pocket and retrieve my credentials," Thorne stated, narrating his movements to ensure there was no confusion. "Do not reach for anything," Braden shouted. "You want to show me ID, you turn around and put your hands on the wall." Thorne stood his ground. "I am not a criminal, and I will not be treated like one. My credentials are in my breast pocket. I am going to take them out, and you are going to look at them, and then you are going to apologize." The audacity of a suspect giving him orders short-circuited Braden's thinking. He watched as Thorne slowly, deliberately reached into his suit jacket. Braden tensed, ready to draw, but Thorne produced a black leather wallet with a gold seal embossed on the front. He flipped it open. The badge of the Federal Railroad Administration gleamed in the platform lights next to a laminated ID card with Thorne's photo title and clearance level. "Special Agent and Senior Auditor Marcus Thorne," he said. "Department of Transportation. You can verify this with your dispatcher." Braden glanced at the badge. It looked real. It had the holograms, the weight, the seal. But Braden had already decided Thorne was a thief. Therefore, the badge had to be fake. "You think I'm stupid?" Braden sneered. "I can buy one of those online for $20. Impersonating a federal officer is a felony. Now you're really in trouble." Thorne stared at him in disbelief. "This is a legitimate federal credential. Look at the hologram. Call it in." Braden shook his head. "I'm done listening to your stories. Turn around." "I am not turning around. I am conducting official government business," Thorne said, his voice hardening. By now, passengers further down the platform had stopped. Phones were out. The red recording lights were blinking. Thorne noticed them. He knew this was the moment that would define the encounter. "Officer, you are making a grave mistake. You are refusing to verify federal identification. You are detaining a federal employee without probable cause." Braden's patience snapped. He grabbed Thorne's left wrist and twisted it behind his back. Thorne winced as the joint was torqued, but he didn't fight back. He knew that any resistance would be used to justify further violence. "I am not resisting," Thorne shouted, projecting his voice for the cameras. "I am complying under duress. I am a federal official being assaulted by a police officer." Braden shoved Thorne against the side of the train car. The metal echoed with the impact. "Stop resisting," Braden yelled, despite Thorne standing perfectly still. Braden pulled Thorne's other arm back and ratcheted the handcuffs on tight, too tight. "You're under arrest for larceny, resisting arrest, and impersonating a police officer," Braden announced, panting slightly from the exertion of arresting a man who hadn't fought back. "These bags stay here as evidence." Thorne, face pressed against the cold metal of the train, spoke calmly. "Those cases contain classified government testing equipment. If you leave them unattended on this platform, you will be violating federal security protocols. Do not touch them." Braden ignored him. He keyed his radio. "One in custody, safe and secure." Braden marched Thorne down the length of the platform. It was a walk of shame designed to humiliate. Thorne held his head high despite the cuffs cutting into his wrists. He made eye contact with the people filming. "My name is Marcus Thorne," he said clearly to a woman holding an iPhone. "I am a senior auditor for the FRA. Please keep recording." Braden shoved him forward. "Shut your mouth. You have the right to remain silent, so use it." They exited the station, passing the very security guard Rick Vance who had called it in. Vance looked on with a smirk, feeling vindicated. He saw the handcuffs and assumed he had been right. He didn't see the disaster that was about to unfold. Braden shoved Thorne into the back of his patrol unit. The hard plastic seat was uncomfortable, the legroom non-existent. Thorne sat awkwardly, his shoulders aching from the position of his arms. He closed his eyes and began to breathe rhythmically. He was angry, furiously angry, but he knew that anger was a luxury he couldn't afford right now. He needed his mind sharp. He needed to remember every word, every timestamp, every violation. The drive to the precinct took 15 minutes. Braden spent the drive lecturing Thorne from the front seat. "You guys always think you can talk your way out of it. Fancy suit fake badge. Did you really think that would work on me? I've been a cop for 5 years. I know a scam when I see one." Thorne remained silent. He looked out the window at the passing city, his mind compiling the lawsuit. He calculated the Fourth Amendment violations, the failure to verify credentials, the excessive force, the defamation. He wasn't just a victim. He was an auditor, and he was about to audit the Philadelphia Police Department. When they arrived at the precinct, Braden yanked Thorne out of the car and paraded him into the station. The booking area was busy. Officers were typing reports. Phones were ringing. Braden walked Thorne up to the high desk where the desk sergeant, a man named Miller, was sitting. Sergeant Miller was 58 years old, a veteran who had seen it all. He looked up over his reading glasses as Braden approached. "What do you got, Braden?" Miller asked, his tone tired. "Grand larceny, resisting and impersonating a Fed," Braden announced proudly.
Caught him loading stolen tech cases onto the Acela. Tried to flash a fake badge at me. Braden tossed Thorne's wallet onto the counter. It landed with a heavy thud. Thorne stood there disheveled but dignified. He looked Sergeant Miller in the eye. "Sergeant," Thorne said, his voice steady, "I am Special Agent Marcus Thorne, Federal Railroad Administration. I was conducting a safety audit transfer. Your officer refused to verify my credentials and assaulted me." Miller looked at Thorne. He saw the quality of the suit. He saw the calm rage in the man's eyes. Then he looked at the wallet. He picked it up and opened it. Miller had worked joint task forces before. He knew what federal credentials looked like. He ran his thumb over the seal. He held the ID card up to the light to check the holographic overlay. His stomach dropped. These weren't fake. They were pristine. "Braden," Miller said, his voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "Did you run this badge?" Braden rolled his eyes. "No, Sarge, it's clearly a print job. Look at it." Miller slammed the wallet down on the desk, making Braden jump. "It's real, you idiot!" The room went silent. Every officer stopped what they were doing. Miller picked up the phone and dialed the number on the back of the ID card, the Department of Transportation Emergency Verification Line. "This is Sergeant Miller, Philadelphia PD. I have a subject in custody claiming to be Marcus Thorne, badge number 8944-Alpha. I need verification." Miller paused, listening. His face went pale. Yes, I understand. He is currently in handcuffs. Yes, sir. I understand." Miller hung up the phone slowly. He looked at Braden with a mixture of pity and fury. "That was the deputy director of the FRA. Marcus Thorne is their senior auditor. He's supposed to be in D.C. for a meeting with the Secretary of Transportation. And you arrested him." Braden's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The arrogance drained out of him, replaced by a cold, creeping dread. "But he looks suspicious. The guard said—" Miller stood up. "I don't care what the guard said. You verify. That is day one stuff. Uncuff him. Now." Braden's hand shook as he reached for his keys. He fumbled with the lock. The mechanism clicked, and the cuffs fell away. Thorne rubbed his wrists where deep red grooves had formed. Thorne didn't look at Braden. He looked at Miller. "I want his badge number. I want the body camera footage secured immediately, and I want to make a phone call to the United States Attorney's Office." Miller nodded. "You'll have everything you need, sir. Agent Thorne, I am incredibly sorry. This was a massive failure." Thorne adjusted his cuffs. "This wasn't a failure, Sergeant. This was a choice. Your officer chose to ignore the evidence because he preferred his own bias, and now the city is going to pay for that choice." A lieutenant emerged from the back office, having heard the commotion. He took one look at the scene, the federal agent, the pale rookie, the furious sergeant, and knew a storm had made landfall. He walked up to Braden. "Braden, give me your gun and your shield. You are on administrative suspension pending an investigation. Go home." Braden unbuckled his belt, the leather creaking in the silent room. He placed his weapon and his badge on the counter next to Thorne's federal credentials. The contrast was stark. One badge represented authority earned through decades of service. The other represented authority lost in 10 minutes of stupidity. The fallout was swift and absolute. The video from the platform hit social media before Thorne had even left the precinct. The sight of a distinguished black man in a suit being manhandled while calmly identifying himself as a federal auditor went viral instantly. "Federal auditor arrested for working while black" trended worldwide. The Department of Transportation released a scathing statement condemning the arrest and demanding a full investigation into the Philadelphia Police Department's training protocols. Thorne sued. The lawsuit named Kyle Braden, the security company, and the city of Philadelphia. The charges included false arrest, excessive force civil rights violations, and defamation. The city didn't even try to fight it. The evidence was overwhelming.
The settlement was reached in record time, $6.5 million. It was one of the largest individual settlements in the department's history. Rick Vance, the security guard who started it all, was fired the next day. The security firm issued a public apology claiming Vance had violated multiple protocols. But apologies don't erase the intent. Vance had weaponized the police against a man simply because he couldn't conceive of a black man owning expensive equipment. Kyle Braden was terminated 3 months later. The Internal Affairs investigation found that he had violated 6 separate department policies, including failure to investigate, failure to verify identification, and use of excessive force. At 29 years old, his career in law enforcement was over. He would never wear a badge again. Marcus Thorne returned to work 2 weeks later. He refused to let the incident derail his career or his dignity. But when he stands on train platforms now, he is always aware of the eyes on him. He knows that his suit, his title, and his service record are invisible to those who choose only to see his skin color. This story isn't just about bad policing. It's about the fragility of freedom. Marcus Thorne had everything a person could use to protect themselves: status, government credentials, legal knowledge, and witnesses. And it still wasn't enough to stop an officer from putting him in chains. It begs the terrifying question: if this can happen to a senior federal auditor, what happens to the young man in a hoodie who has no badge, no lawyer, and no voice? Officer Braden saw what he wanted to see, not what was there. He replaced curiosity with assumption and investigation with aggression. That is the tragedy of bias. It blinds us to the truth standing right in front of us. We have to ask ourselves, how many careers need to be destroyed? How many millions of tax dollars need to be paid? And how many innocent lives need to be traumatized before the system changes? Do you think officers should be personally liable for civil rights settlements rather than the taxpayers footing the bill? Should false reporting by security guards carry criminal charges? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. These conversations are difficult, but they are necessary. If you believe in accountability and truth, please like this video and share it. Together we can shine a light on the shadows. Thank you for watching and stay safe.